Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed adjudicators and respected members of the House, before I begin, allow me to give you a picture. Imagine a poor man who has stolen food from a shop because of hunger. What happens to him? In most cases, he is sent to prison. Now imagine another man who has gambled away his child's school fees. The proposal today is to not punish him, but instead offer him training and social services. Do you see the imbalance? And as we all know, cases like these happen very often. And that is why, as the opposition, we firmly stand to disregard the motion of this House would give social service and skill training for gambling offenders rather than imprisonment. So to our side of the House, we strongly believe that imprisonment must remain the appropriate punishment for gambling offenders. Giving them the only social service and training sounds nice on paper, but in practice, it's unrealistic and it's dangerous for our society. And now, before I continue, allow me to explain the status quo. As far as we know, gambling is not a light mistake. In many countries, gambling addictions lead to theft, violence, domestic abuse, and large-scale illegal money circulation. Families lose their entire savings, children are neglected, and crime rates increase. Ladies and gentlemen, if we change this punishment into a social service and training, people will treat gambling as a low-risk activity, thinking, well, if I get caught, I'll just do some cleaning work and attend a free class. The seriousness and thought of a heavy and legalized consequences of a crime will disappear. Why is this true? Because human behavior is driven by incentives and consequences. Think about it. If a teenager knows failing schools only results in extra lessons without the possibility of repeating a grade, would they truly take their studies seriously? Of course not. Now, allow me to explain the mechanisms of the argument that I will bring here today. Firstly, humans are motivated by two forces, reward and punishment. Gambling gives an immediate reward, thrill, money, and escape from reality. If the counter to that is only to workshop or counsel, people will choose the instant thrill over a boring lecture. And secondly, prison provides a high-cost consequence. The thought of losing one's freedom is a strong psychological barrier, even though those attempted to gamble will hesitate when they know that jail time is a real responsibility. Without that, the cost-benefit calculation tilts entirely in favor of gambling. And third, breaking criminal networks requires disruption and not discussion. Gambling dens are rarely just a game. They are usually backed by loan sharks or money laundering groups. By removing gamblers, law enforcement gets to lead a bigger network, freezes their operations, and prevent others from being recruited. And fourth, soft treatment ignores the moral hazard problem. If the state consistently treats gamblers as victims instead of offenders, we create a moral hazard. People feel that they can gamble without fear because even if they got caught, the worst that they can face is just a workshop. And the fifth one is rehabilitation. It's not effective without punishment. Addictions like gambling are not solved by education alone. Addicts often know gambling is bad, but still continue due to the thrill and compulsion. Therefore, counseling alone is insufficient. Prison, however, forces a physical and psychological interruption, removing access, breaking habits, and enforcing discipline. And the last one is protecting victims for gamblers. Behind every gambler, there are victims, and if the state only rehabilitates gamblers, it sends the message that the gamblers' feelings matter more than the suffering of their dependents. Without imprisonment, there are no deterrents, no accountability, and no justice. Offenders escape real consequences. Victims suffer and lose hope. Society loses trust in law. Now, what will happen if this continues happening? Well, first, it will increase the gambling relapse. Without the fear of a real prison time, they will continue gambling because the worst consequences is another session of social service. And second, it will cause family breakdown due to the repeated abandonment, financial ruin, and the domestic violence. And third, it will cause crime escalation. If the system treats them softly, offenders will feel safe to continue gambling and then commit more crimes to cover their losses. And fourth, it will lose public trust. Imagine a father who loses his salary to gambling debts, but the gambler only gets free training instead of punishment. How are we supposed to define justice that way? So, in order to stop the cycle, allow me to give us some few points. First, we should provide deterrence works. And second, we should protect families. And third, we should give disruption for criminal networks. And last one is public confidence. So even if we argue that social service and training are more human, the question is human for whom? Ladies and gentlemen, imprison is not cruelty. It is justice, deterrence, and protection. That is why we on the opposition are proud to stand against this motion.